It was a frigid, snowy night in Duluth, Minnesota. One of those nights where the darkness is thick and the world seems to hold its breath. Inside, I was just a single mother, working my way through another shift, stretching every dollar and every minute for my little girl Zoe. And I'd often lie awake wondering if I was doing enough. There were days when the weight of the bills felt heavier than the snow piling up outside. I remember my neighbours, they'd whisper, Naomi's just a dreamer, when I dared to hope for something beyond survival. Then came that night. A frantic knock at my door shattered the stillness, almost like the universe decided I needed a wake-up call. It was a little past 2 a.m., and there I was, exhausted but alert, staring into the wide eyes of an old man who was freezing and disoriented. His name was Lawrence Whitford. Little did I know then that opening that door would send my life spiraling into a whirlwind of secrets and danger, revealing truths I never imagined I'd confront. What happens next? It's a story of desperation turning into resolve, of a woman pushed to the edge, stepping up to fight for justice, in a world that felt increasingly unjust. As I took a deep breath and invited him in, I was unaware that this encounter would lead me down a path I never could have foreseen. Let me tell you about that journey, how a simple act of kindness became the catalyst for not just my transformation, but a fight against the darkness creeping into our lives. It was a Thursday morning, the day I had waited for the annual meeting with the board to discuss our charitable initiatives. The room was filled with bright faces and confident voices, but there was an energy in the air, a heaviness that gnawed at my insides. I could feel it. Larry, my boss and mentor, had promised me the spotlight. I had poured my heart into this project seeking to uplift those forgotten in our community. But as I stood before them, the room fell silent. My colleagues looked past me, eyes wide with disbelief, when Evan Whitford himself strode in. Naomi, he called, a smug smile plastered on his face. You've worked hard, too hard to fall for the old man's tales. Don't you think it's time we re-evaluate your position here? The laughter that followed cut deeper than any blade. I was dumbfounded, each chuckle ringing painfully in my ears as I tried to comprehend what was happening. Evan, I'm just here to present our plans. I managed my voice trembling as I felt the room tilt dangerously. Plans or fantasies? He sneered, and the laughter swelled again. My heart sank as Larry's eyes flickered away, his silence thunderous. You think you can take us on? Evan leaned closer, his voice low and venomous. I could crush you with just a flick of my wrist. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just a pawn in their game. I had worked too damn hard and sacrificed too much to walk away quietly. Anger coursed through my veins. I refuse to be underestimated. I met Evan's gaze, locking eyes with a newfound ferocity. You don't know what I'm capable of. I shot back, my voice steadier than I felt. But as I stormed out, humiliation burned in my chest. How was I going to fight back? Each footstep echoed my uncertainty, but deep down I knew I could never give up. Not for Zoe, not for myself. The war was just beginning. You ever just sit there staring at a mess you got yourself into, thinking, what did I do to deserve this? Yeah, me too. So there I was, in my tiny apartment, all snugly in my pile of bills, and the sound of Zoe's sweet snores filling the air. Enter Lawrence Whitford, Mr. Billionaire, who, surprise, surprise, doesn't know whether he's more lost outside in a blizzard or inside my living room. Thanks to my crumbling sanity, I decide to help him. Talk about a calculated risk, thank you, life. But then the thunderstorm hit. Not just outside. Oh no, we had a full-on hurricane of trouble brewing. Evan, his son, the devious prodigy, was just a couple of shadows lurking in the periphery, sizing me up. Watching, waiting. They say the chill of winter outside is nothing compared to the chill of fear creeping up your spine. We'll try mixing both, shall we? As if unlocking the drama of a living soap opera wasn't complicated enough. I find out there's a charity connected to all this. A children's trust that's been stained with corruption deeper than that old couch I keep refusing to toss. Great. Now, I'm not just involved in some rich guy drama. I'm neck deep in justice. And believe me, the local authorities weren't exactly my biggest fans. Picture me, truth teller, standing on shaky legs, being met with skepticism because clearly I've got a wild imagination or I'm just another lost woman trying to climb a mountain of chaos. But you know what humour was my lifeline. I couldn't let my laundry list of bad jokes go to waste. It became my coping mechanism. There I was, handing out sass like candy, winking at danger, like I was far tougher than I felt. Every no I faced only fueled my fire a bit more. A little doubt, a sprinkle of denial, sure bring it on. But no storm, literal or metaphorical, was going to sweep me back into my old life without a fight. I could feel that breakthrough waiting just a heartbeat away, even as I stumbled through the darkest nights. Little did I know that storm was just the beginning. Everything felt heavy. The weight of loss, the cold grip of despair around Naomi's heart. Lawrence's lifeless body in her arms, a chilling reminder of a battle she never asked for. Her hands trembled fingers tracing the edges of the lockbox that held fragments of truth. It was all there. Evidence. Betrayals. A legacy of corruption. But what now? The silence screamed as she let the reality settle in. She was alone. No one to turn to, no path laid out before her. But then, in the stillness, a crack formed, a flicker of something. Rage. No, not just rage, resolve. She couldn't bury this like they had buried Lawrence. She felt his wish, a spark igniting deep within her. Finish what I started, he had said, and suddenly those words reverberated against the walls of her mind. She could either remain a victim or become a warrior. Naomi took a deep breath, the icy air sharp, invigorating. It cut through her despair like the first light of dawn piercing a long dark night. She could use the lockbox, a shield, a tool. She would expose the truth, not just for Lawrence, but for all those silenced by greed and power. In that moment, she chose. No more hiding, no more fear. With a newfound clarity, she picked up her phone. The journalist Rachel, where was she? Every second counted. Naomi dialed the number, each ring a heartbeat of determination. If they wanted a fight, she would give them one, because she was no longer just a single mother. She was a force. An unstoppable force, rising from the ashes of her grief. And as the call connected, The heat of purpose surged through her veins. This was her turning point, the beginning of a storm. And she was ready to face it head on. As the storm outside howled inside a brightly lit conference room, Naomi Carter stood poised, her heart thundering in her chest. It was the day she had long awaited, the day she would confront Evan Whitford and reveal the truth. Seated around the table were powerful journalists and legal minds, each one eager to hear her story. Naomi could feel the weight of Lawrence's last words echoing in her mind as she looked down at the evidence laid bare before her. Rachel Diaz, the investigative journalist who had become a trusted ally, met her gaze with a reassuring nod. With a deep breath, Naomi began to recount the harrowing events, the conspiracies, and the layers of betrayal she had uncovered. Each detail she shared felt like a thread unraveling the twisted fabric of Evan's empire. An article had already gone viral with the headline, "A Mother's Fight: How Naomi Carter Took Down a Billionaire's Corruption." The chatter in the room faded into a soft hum, and Naomi's voice grew stronger. She noticed the shift in the faces of her audience, from skepticism to intrigue, and finally to respect. The burden that had weighed on her shoulders felt just a little lighter as she spoke the truth, shedding light on the shadows she had lived in for so long. Later, as the meeting concluded, Naomi shook hands with Rachel and the editors, their gazes filled with admiration. A quiet smirk crossed her lips, a moment of triumph that signified not arrogance but a hard-earned victory. She had done it. She had transformed her pain into power, channeling her scars into a fierce commitment for justice. Yet as she returned to her car, parked under a sky that was clearing after the storm, she knew that success does not erase the scars. Instead, as she once more looked ahead to a world filled with possibilities for Zoe, she realized her triumph had given those scars purpose. They were reminders not of despair, but of everything she had fought for. And in that truth lay the foundation of her new path, one illuminated by hope and resilience. As I look back on Naomi's journey, I'm struck by the transformative power that emerged from her darkest hour. From a single mother, weary beneath the weight of despair, to a tenacious fighter for justice, Naomi learned that power often resides not in wealth or position, but in the unyielding strength found within the human spirit. She discovered that the true power of trust is a double-edged sword. It can empower, but when betrayed, it can cut deep into the fabric of our lives, leaving scars that take a lifetime to heal. Through her harrowing encounters with loss and betrayal, Naomi grappled with the complexities of revenge. Is the pursuit of vengeance ever justified? Or does it muddy the waters of moral clarity, pushing us further away from the justice we seek? Many will argue that revenge serves as a necessary catalyst for justice, while others will proclaim it to be a destructive path devoid of righteousness. But the reality is that the line between right and wrong can often blur in the haze of raw emotion. Naomi emerged not only as a protector of her daughter, but as a champion for the voiceless, determined to rebuild a foundation of trust and resilience within her community. It begs the question, what would you risk for the sake of justice? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And let's spark a conversation that challenges our perceptions of power, revenge, and redemption. In the end, it is not merely the story of one woman, but an invitation to each of us to confront our fears and to stand up when life demands we be the brave ones. Because in the face of injustice, the question is never whether we can afford to take a stand. It's whether we can afford not to.